Welcome back to Global News Update. Today we dive into a high-stakes political showdown in Washington, one that threatens not just the functioning of government, but the very livelihoods of American troops and federal workers. With the U.S. government in partial shutdown, former President Donald Trump has issued a bold directive: pay the troops, no matter what. But where will the funds come from? And what does this move tell us about power, crisis, and governance in today's America? Let's unpack the drama, the risks, and the deeper implications. The shutdown and the stakes. On October 1st, 2025, a budget impasse brought the U.S. federal government to a halt. Key agencies were shuttered, non-essential employees furloughed, and uncertainty spread across Washington. This shutdown isn't just another political standoff. It carries real consequences. Among the most urgent, the question of how and whether U.S. military personnel will get paid. In prior shutdowns, Congress sometimes intervened to ensure military pay continued. But this time, that safety net is shaky. By October 11th, the Trump administration announced a controversial solution: redirect funds, originally intended for research, development, testing, and evaluation, to keep paying troops. Roughly $8 billion of unobligated R&D funding has been identified as a potential source. Yet even as the troops are promised pay, many federal workers, already furloughed, are being left out in the cold. That discrepancy is fueling tensions, political rhetoric, and public scrutiny. Trump's directive: authority, strategy, and symbolism. Donald Trump framed his action as a matter of military honor and executive responsibility. He invoked his authority as commander-in-chief, ordering Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to use all available funds to ensure troops pay by October 15th. He publicly criticized Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and Democrats, accusing them of holding the military hostage through their unwillingness to pass a budget. But this is more than optics. By guaranteeing military pay, Trump removes one of the most potent political levers that a shutdown exerts: the threat that red meat duty will go unpaid, pressuring Congress to act. Critics, however, raise constitutional and fiscal alarm bells. Does redirecting funds without explicit congressional approval cross legal lines? Can the Pentagon legally repurpose R&D allocations when they were appropriated for different ends? And what does this signal about executive flexing in times of gridlock? The human impact: troops, families, and federal workers. Behind the political theater are real people. Military families, many living paycheck to paycheck, now face uncertainty over rent, groceries, childcare, and medical bills. Some are already turning to food banks. The Armed Services YMCA reports a 30 to 34% increase in demand. At the same time, federal civilian employees, postal workers, park rangers, scientists, regulators are being furloughed or even laid off, with no assurances of back pay. That divergence is inflammatory. It raises political questions. Are military personnel being elevated above ordinary civil servants? And will public sympathy align with troops or with everyday federal workers? In addition, regions with large military populations, bases, defense contractors, support industries, are absorbing local economic shockwaves as defense families reduce spending. Some service members express frustration. How ready and lethal are you if you don't know if you can feed your family? That tension between duty, dignity, and survival is at the heart of the shutdown's human drama. Political theater or strategic move. On the surface, paying the troops seems like a morally smart move, difficult to oppose. But politically, it's a gamble. By removing the military pay threat, Trump undercuts a key pressure point on Democrats. If Congress believes the crisis is alleviated, urgency to negotiate may decline. That could prolong the shutdown. Also, by acting unilaterally, the administration may provoke constitutional pushback or oversight investigations. Some lawmakers argue that such fund reallocation without legislative approval violates the Appropriations Clause. Whether the courts or Congress will push back remains to be seen. And politically, the optics play differently across constituencies. Conservatives may applaud the show of strength and commitment to defense. Progressives and moderates may see favoritism or executive overreach. Finally, the move highlights something deeper. When the institutions fail, executives may try to bypass them. That path is risky, It can erode norms of accountability, separation of powers, and budget discipline. Broader geopolitical and institutional implications. This crisis is a microcosm of larger themes in U.S. governance today. Executive power versus legislative authority. When Congress gridlocks, can a president act independently, especially in matters of funding and defense? Military exceptionalism. The idea that military personnel are a sacred class that must be insulated politically has consequences for how all public service is valued. Institutional resilience. Chronic budget fights, polarization, and executive fallback moves strain the legitimacy and stability of U.S. democratic institutions. Global perception. Allies and adversaries alike watch closely. If the world's preeminent power is internally fractured over paying its soldiers, what signal does that send about reliability, deterrence, and strategic coherence? In short, this is not a domestic squabble only. It's a test of structural strength, political strategy, and constitutional balance. What happens next? Scenarios to watch. As we move forward, here are several key trajectories. 1. Courts or Congress constrain the reallocation. Legal challenges or legislative pushback might block or claw back the redirected funding. 2. Shutdown drags on. With the military shielded from pressure, other agencies and workers suffer longer, deepening political and public cost. 3. Backdoor deals emerge. A bipartisan compromise could be stitched together, perhaps restoring full funding with conditions or rescissions elsewhere. 4. Precedent for future shutdowns. If this approach is successful and unchallenged, future administrations may feel empowered to bypass Congress in crises, altering the balance of power over time. And through it all, public sentiment and media frames will matter. Will people side with troops over furloughed workers? Will they view the move as a patriotic rescue or an overreach? Closing/takeaways. In the rupture between government funding and military pay, we see a broader fissure in American governance. When the machinery halts, who gets protected and how becomes a test not just of politics, but values and institutional design. Trump's directive to pay troops may offer short-term relief to soldiers and a political win, but it also raises serious questions about the rule of law, separation of powers, and whether executive improvisation can mask deeper dysfunction. As tens of thousands of federal employees remain unpaid, and as families across military and civilian lines feel the squeeze, the question isn't just who wins this fight, it's whether the system itself can withstand it. If you found this breakdown helpful, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss future dives into global and U.S. power dynamics. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think? Heroic rescue or dangerous overstep? Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay informed, stay critical.